Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. It's been a while since the last one, but I don't really have time to get into why it's been such a long time. But anyways, we're back with the first Global Awareness Report of the new year. Happy New Year to everybody and Merry Christmas. So we are going to catch up to where we last left off. And we're going to start with the obvious, which is that North Kherson, west of the Dnieper River, has been abandoned by the Russians, including the city itself, has been abandoned by the Russians, and they retreated back to the eastern bank of the river. This was around in mid-October, I believe, when this happened. So they abandoned the west of Kherson, and the reason for this was because Ukraine was putting pressure on the bridges across the Dnieper with HIMARS, and the Russian logistics were strained, so the Russian High Command made the decision to retreat across the river, and now they are holding the river line right here. This is a major blow to the Russian operation, because any idea of capturing Mykolaiv or even Odessa is out the window now. It's not going to happen. And because Russia annexed Kherson, they don't have all of the administrative borders of Kherson, and that's unlikely to happen, as they now need to make an amphibious assault across the river, as I believe that the bridges are still intact. I believe so. I could be wrong on that, but I believe these bridges are still intact. But pushing across the bridges now would be a very, very difficult thing to do. So they would need to, if they want to ever reopen this front across the west, they would need to launch amphibious assaults and push across the bridges at the same time, which would be a lot of effort and manpower and resources to do that. Ukraine as well could also make attempts to land across the river with an amphibious assault. That too would be difficult and time consuming and a lot of resources to move over a significant number of equipment anywhere across this line, this river line. So this front is likely to stay fairly static. You might see some special forces from Ukraine land or something along those, or something like that, something along those lines, but I doubt that there will be a mass amphibious assaults that will actually lead somewhere. It would be very difficult to pull that off. It is possible. Don't get me wrong, of course, it is possible, but it would certainly be impressive if either side managed to pull off an amphibious landing there. I believe that this is what the front line looked like when we left off. It was something similar like this. The Russians abandoned of Kharkiv. We reported on that before our break here from the reporting. The Faliman and Torsk. Actually, I believe this was new. This happened while I was away. Torsk was captured by the Ukrainians. As long as these villages, this line of contact has moved closer to the borders of Luhansk and actually into the administrative borders of Luhansk. So the Ukrainians have pushed a little bit since the last video, as well as I believe they have made some further gains into the forest. However, the Russians still control Dubrova, and Crimea is still safe for now from Ukrainian attacks. Moving down here, this line hasn't changed much besides Belohorivka being captured by Ukraine once again. And Spirne, this infamous village where no one knows who controls it, is I've just decided that half of it is Russian, half of it's Ukrainian. No one, it's a gray zone. It's not really under anybody's control. It's always been like that, hasn't it? Like since I started this, it's always sort of been like that. Anyways, we are going to move down to Yakovlivka, which the Russians have captured and have made a push from all directions and have captured this area recently. And so they are close to Vasile and Rozdolivka and this sort of area of urban settlements. And the Russians have also captured Bakhmutske, the little town west of Soledar, and they've pushed significantly into Soledar. They're now halfway through the city, Soledar being a very difficult location to push in. It's urban and it's narrow. It's a very good place to defend, and it's very hard to attack. But on the 6th, or around the 5th, more likely the 5th, the Russians captured Bakhmutske, this entire area right here, and they've pushed up to this factory area. So the Russians are making headway in Soledar, and that's important because of the Battle of Bakhmut, which is a critical battle, and it is the main area of focus for the war nowadays, is this city of Bakhmut. The Russians have entered some of the residential areas of the city and have captured Opitne and Ivanhrad, and are very close to making a near encirclement of the city by cutting off the roads here near Pihordina. That's not how you pronounce that. I've gotten rusty at my Ukrainian pronunciation. My apologies. But this town right here, and Ivaniske, the Russians are making a push towards the very far west of Bakhmut and are trying to establish a area around this highway right here to cut off the city from the west, so that the city can no longer gain supplies, and so Russia can put artillery in range of all of the roads into the city and cut off supplies to the city, so that Ukraine will be forced to abandon it, similar to what they did in Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. So they are trying to get the Ukrainians to abandon the city so that Russia can walk in without a whole lot of fighting, and to put pressure on it and to capture this area. And once this area is captured, the next largest city is in Konstanivka and Kramatorsk and Slavyansk, this line. That is the next biggest line of defense. Because you can see this area only has little villages and towns, and it's a lot of fields, so it's a lot more difficult to defend in this large urban area. As well as Russia is also trying to take Klishchevka. There are two I's and a V right next to each other. Oh man. The Ukrainian names, they're always by bane, right? They're the bane of my existence. Not really. Ukrainian and Russian are very beautiful languages. I'm just very bad at it. But anyways, this town right here, the Russians are trying to capture, but it is very difficult because you can see right here this massive fortification right here. Look at all these trenches and dig outs right here on top of this hill. On top of this hill, looking over the city in the fields over here. It is the city is a mini fortress, and the Russians are trying to flank the city from the north over here. You see this salient right here. They're trying to flank the city, and as well, they are trying to capture the fields and push to these tree lines. And they need to capture the city so that they can have a clear shot toward Ivanetske, so that they can easily cut off Bakhmut from the west. More easily, I should say. It's none of this is easy to do. As well as generally just pushing in the sort of Bakhmut area right here, this sort of blue polygon I've created here. You can see the units that are defending this. 3 mechanized brigades. Last time I checked, which wasn't that long ago, maybe about a week or 2 ago, I updated this. But it could have changed slightly by then, but a lot of units are defending this area right here. So this is a very heavily contested area. This is the main center of gravity, I guess you could say, if we want to use Clausewitz's terminology, I guess you could say. This is the main area where most of the fighting is happening, right here. And we're going to move over to the deadliest HIMARS strike so far, which happened on the 1st of January, right here at this building, what most people believe to be this building. Up to 89 people died in the strike. This was a vocational school that was being used to train new recruits, I believe. Right here in Makivka, just east of Donetsk. This area right here. It's the deadliest HIMARS strike so far, and it happened on the New Year. No doubt that was planned. They were no doubt the Ukrainians were hoping it to be the deadliest strike as a sort of a symbolic victory. The first HIMARS strike of the New Year being the most effective in terms of enemy casualties. Other than that, in the Zaporizhia line, not much has happened, although there are rumors that Ukraine is building an army of up to 200,000 soldiers, and they are going to use it most likely in Zaporizhia and try to capture Mitropol and try to recapture this large chunk of area right here, all the way down to Melitopol. And the rumors, and it's sort of been confirmed because France says that it's sending over the AMX-10 light tank. It's not really a tank, it's a wheeled vehicle. You can look up the AMX-10, and the Ukrainians are hoping that America will send over the Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. And Germany, I believe, has confirmed that it will send 60 to 70, I believe. It could be a little bit lower than that, but Martyrs infantry fighting vehicle, which are a German-made infantry fighting vehicle. So Ukraine is getting a lot of high-tech equipment, as well as on the 12th, the United States is sending power grid aid to Ukraine. I assume that this is like sort of tools and equipment to help with the power and all of that, so because of Russian bombardment of the power grid in Ukraine. So the Western aid to Ukraine is being ramped up quite significantly. And that is the section of the Global Awareness Report where we talk about the war in Ukraine. So now we're going to move over to some geopolitical news. We're going to try to keep this brief. I don't want this video to go on for too long. Belarus fills top posts, inspects troops' combat readiness. This is a Al Jazeera report. This is on the 12th of December that Belarus has... On the 12th of December, they announced snap military inspection. Russia has sent a lot of equipment and military personnel into Belarus as of late, with ideas that they are going to strike Ukraine from Belarus once more, or that Belarus itself might get involved in the war and send its own troops officially. So we'll have to see about that. It's every time I receive reports. Well, every time that I hear that Russians are sending equipment into Belarus and that Belarus, announces combat readiness inspections and all this sort of stuff, it is looking increasingly likely that they are going to join the war, or Russia is going to use Belarusian territory to attack Ukraine again. I'm not sure what the point of this would be, an attack on the Ukrainian capital again, or maybe even an attack from Brest right here to try and attack maybe Lviv, or cut off some of the roads leading into Ukraine to prevent aid shipments. I don't know what their plan is, but whether they're going to maybe attack Chernihiv again, I don't know, and no one really knows what's going on with Belarus and why there's so much Russian equipment flowing into it. But we will have to wait and see what happens with that. And the 36-hour ceasefire in observation for Orthodox Christmas began today, I believe. That's why when they captured Bakhmut, I believe that was before the ceasefire took effect. So Russia has ordered a ceasefire on all lines of contact in Ukraine. For Orthodox Christians, they celebrate their Christmas. I don't think it's all of them, but I believe that the ones in Russia at least celebrate it on the 6th of January through the 7th of January. So because they use a older, different calendar than the West, their church uses a different calendar. And also right up here we have a Zikron hypersonic cruise missile. A ship with the hypersonic cruise missile has been deployed to the Atlantic Ocean, a frigate, armed with the new generation of hypersonic cruise missiles on Wednesday. This was reported on the 4th. To send a signal to the West that Russia will not back down over the war in Ukraine. I'm not going to get into hypersonic missile development here. I've heard about it. I know some about it, but we don't really have time to get into it. You can check out the rest of these markers here in the map. I will leave a link to the map in the description, so you can check out all of these reports right here. In the east, Japan is beginning to remilitarize in a way, because they were looking at purchasing Tomahawk missiles. They scrambled jets to monitor Chinese aircraft carrier operations. And their new defense plan is a serious expansion of Japanese military capabilities. And so Japan is looking to step up its military game in order to help counter against the Chinese threat in the east. In terms of the EU, Bosnia has been officially accepted as an EU candidate, the Bosnia and Herzegovina. Of course, the protests in Iran is happening. So much stuff happened while I was away, unfortunately. I couldn't report all of it, but you can just read some of these headlines on your own here, and with the link in the description. is there? Oh yeah, the Peru is also in strife right now, and a new left-wing president has been sworn in Brazil as well, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. Unfortunately, I can't report it all. I try to not make these videos super long, but you never know. Maybe I'll upload a part 2 to this video just as an optional thing to go over all these geopolitical reports. Maybe I'll separate the Ukraine reports from the geopolitical reports into 2 different videos. I'm not sure, but we'll see in the future. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully the next one is going to be a little bit longer, but a lot more information packed in. So, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.